Have you ever found yourself staring into the void, wondering why you are here, what your purpose truly is? The question of purpose is as ancient as humanity itself, echoing through the ages as a silent cry in every heart. We all seek validation, fulfillment, and identity, yearning to understand the reason for our existence. But what if, instead of searching outwardly, the answer lies within the very essence of who we are? Your purpose is not something you must find, it is something you must realize and embrace within yourself. Stay with us as we explore the deeper meaning of your existence, unlocking the wisdom that has been there all along. Don't forget to like this message and share your thoughts in the comments before we journey further into this profound discussion. Can I get a bless the Lord from you? Have you ever paused to ponder why you wake up each morning, dragging yourself through the motions of life, feeling as though you're merely existing rather than truly living? This is a common struggle, a deep-seated pain that gnaws at the soul, leaving many wondering about their purpose on earth. C.S. Lewis once posed a profound question: if I find in myself desires which nothing in this world can satisfy, the only logical explanation is that I was made for another world. This reflection speaks to the heart of our existence, suggesting that our purpose may not be rooted in the material world, but in something far greater. Many of us find ourselves trapped in a cycle of monotony, working jobs that drain our spirit, surrounded by people with whom we share no genuine connection, and feeling as though our lives are slipping away without ever truly understanding why we're here. The frustration of not knowing our purpose can lead to a deep sense of despair, as Lewis himself recognized the agony of living a life devoid of meaning. He argued that the true tragedy is not death, but rather living a life without purpose, like drifting through an endless sea without a destination. Lewis once shared a story of a man who spent his entire life accumulating wealth, only to realize on his deathbed that he had never truly lived. This man, like so many others, had confused the pursuit of material success with the pursuit of purpose. He had spent decades climbing the ladder of success, only to discover it was leaning against the wrong wall. Lewis would say that this man's greatest tragedy was not his impending death, but the fact that he had lived without ever knowing why he was alive. The question that plagues us all, why am I here, is one that echoes through the corridors of human history. It is a question that speaks to the very essence of our existence, and without an answer, life can feel like an unending series of meaningless tasks. Lewis believed that our purpose is not something we can create on our own, but something we must discover through our relationship with God. He famously wrote, "You can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending." This quote is a reminder that no matter how lost we may feel, there is always hope for a new beginning, a chance to discover our true purpose and live a life that is rich with meaning and fulfillment. So, I ask you, what are you living for? Are you merely existing, or are you striving to uncover the purpose that God has placed within you? This journey may not be easy, but it is a journey worth taking, for it is the key to living a life that is not only long but also meaningful. As you reflect on your own life, consider Lewis's words and ask yourself if you are truly living out your purpose, or if you are simply going through the motions, waiting for something more. Remember, the greatest tragedy is not death, but life without purpose. So, what will your purpose be? Why is it that so many of us wander through life, striving to achieve success without understanding the deeper why behind our existence? We may fill our days with endless tasks, pursuing what the world labels as success, but can we truly call ourselves successful if we haven't uncovered our divine purpose? This pursuit often leads us to ask others, "Why am I here?" But seeking answers from those who are just as lost as we are is like a blind man asking another blind man for direction. How can they guide us when they too are in the dark? C.S. Lewis, in his profound exploration of purpose and meaning, suggests that the answer lies not within ourselves or even in the advice of others, but in returning to the one who created us. He famously stated, "If I find in myself desires which nothing in this world can satisfy, the only logical explanation is that I was made for another world." This resonates deeply with the understanding that our true purpose, our real reason for being, cannot be defined by worldly standards or human wisdom, It is only in connecting with our Creator that we can begin to uncover the specific reason we were placed on this earth. But how often do we take the time to truly seek this purpose? How often do we quiet the noise around us, the expectations of society, the pressures of success, to listen to the still, small voice that knows our hearts better than we do? The tragic reality, as Dr. Miles Monroe articulated, is that many of us live our entire lives without ever discovering our true purpose. The greatest tragedy in life, Monroe wrote, is not death, it is life without purpose. A life spent chasing success without understanding why we're here is a life devoid of true meaning. Imagine the pain and frustration of reaching the end of your days, only to realize that you never fulfilled the purpose for which you were created. This thought should compel us to seek our Creator, to ask the hard questions, and to listen for the answers that only He can provide. What is the unique reason God made you? What divine assignment has He placed on your life? These are the questions that matter, the ones that, if left unanswered, lead to a life of wandering without direction. As we reflect on our journey, let's not be content with simply being busy or achieving worldly success. Instead, let's strive to discover and fulfill the purpose for which we were created, for it is in this fulfillment that we find true success, peace, and meaning. As we reflect on the profound words of King David in Psalm 139 verse 13 to 16, we are invited to marvel at the intricate craftsmanship of God, who not only formed our physical bodies but also intricately wove together the very essence of who we are. David's declaration, "You made all the delicate, inner parts of my body and knit me together in my mother's womb," is not just a statement of physical creation, but a testimony to the divine intention and care that went into our making. But what does this truly mean for us as individuals living in a world often filled with doubt and uncertainty? How can we grasp the depth of this truth and allow it to resonate within our hearts? C.S. Lewis, a giant in Christian thought, once wrote, "There are no ordinary people. You have never talked to a mere mortal." This quote from his essay, The Weight of Glory, emphasizes the eternal significance and unique purpose of every human being. Lewis reminds us that our existence is far more than the sum of our physical parts. It is a divine orchestration that carries eternal value. Have you ever considered that your life, with all its complexities and challenges, is not a random occurrence but a deliberate act of creation by a loving God? Just as an artist meticulously plans every brushstroke in a masterpiece, God carefully planned every detail of your life. David's song speaks of a God who not only sees us in the hidden darkness of the womb, but who also writes the story of our lives with purpose and precision. Every day of my life was recorded in your book. Every moment was laid out before a single day had passed. Can you imagine the depth of love and care that God has for you, knowing that He has already mapped out your journey? C.S. Lewis, in his book Mere Christianity, addresses the idea of purpose and destiny with clarity. The great thing, if one can, is to stop regarding all the unpleasant things as interruptions of one's own or real life. The truth is, of course, that what one calls the interruptions are precisely one's real life, the life God is sending one day by day. Lewis's insight challenges us to embrace the reality that our lives, with all their twists and turns, are not interruptions but the very path God has designed for us. In light of this, we must ask ourselves, do we live with the confidence that our lives are part of a divine plan? Do we trust that even in the midst of confusion, pain, and uncertainty, God's purpose for us remains steadfast? King David's words are not just a comfort but a call to recognize the intentionality behind our existence. You are not an accident, you are here for a reason. Every breath you take, every decision you make, is part of a larger tapestry that God has been weaving since before you were born. So, as you ponder these truths, let them sink deep into your soul. Allow the reality of God's foreknowledge and purpose to fill you with hope. Remember that you are wonderfully complex, a work of divine art, and that your life has been carefully recorded in God's book. In the words of C.S. Lewis, let this knowledge take root in your heart and grow, transforming how you view your life and your purpose. You are known, you are loved, and you are here for a a reason that has been established by the Creator of the universe himself. God has plans for me. Jeremiah 29 verse 11 New Living Translation reads, God says, "For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. They are plans for good and not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope." So, God has great plans for you. He promises that His plans for your destiny are only good ones. No disasters are planned for you by God. He hasn't written down on this occasion, when they're 35 or 40 years old, I'm going to get them. None of that. No, His plans are only good, and they're only filled with grace and hope. Imagine for a moment the profound implications of Jeremiah 29 verse 11, where God declares, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans not merely to exist, but to prosper you, to give you hope and a future." Have you ever considered the depth of what it means that these plans are divinely crafted? C.S. Lewis, in his Reflections on the Divine, often emphasized that we are not mere accidents in the grand tapestry of creation, but intentional designs woven with purpose and meaning. He wrote, "You are never too old to set another goal, or to dream a new dream," underscoring the perpetual relevance of God's plans for our lives, no matter our stage in life. What does it mean for you, personally, to have a divine purpose? Have you ever felt the weight of uncertainty, wondering if your life holds meaning? This scripture reassures us that God's plan is not only in place, but is one designed for our good, tailored to our very existence. Lewis poignantly explored this idea, suggesting that our desires and aspirations are not random but are in fact clues to the unique calling God has placed on our lives. He posed the thought-provoking question, if I find in myself desires which nothing in this world can satisfy, the only logical explanation is that I was made for another world. Could it be that these deep, unfulfilled yearnings within you are a divine whisper, guiding you toward the plans God has already laid out? God didn't just start a plan when you were born, He completed it long before you took your first breath. C.S. Lewis would argue that this completion is a reflection of God's timeless nature, where He exists outside the constraints of time as we know it. Your life, therefore, is not a series of random events but a carefully orchestrated journey. Lewis once remarked, God cannot give us happiness and peace apart from Himself, because it is not there. There is no such thing. This reminds us that the fulfillment of God's plan in our lives is inextricably linked to our relationship with Him. As you ponder the intricate design of your life, ask yourself, what unique purpose has God crafted for me? How can I align my life more closely with the plans He has for me? In the midst of life's chaos, it's easy to feel lost, but Jeremiah 29 verse 11 and the writings of C.S. Lewis offer a beacon of hope. They remind us that no one is a mistake, that each of us is here for a valuable purpose. God saw you, even in your mother's womb, and He designed you with specific intent. You are not an afterthought but a masterpiece in the making, and your future is filled with hope because it is anchored in the promises of a loving Creator. So let this truth settle into your heart. God's plans are not just a vague notion, they are as real and specific as the breath you take. As Lewis eloquently put it, there are far, far better things ahead than any we leave behind. Trust in this divine promise, and let it propel you into the future with confidence and peace, knowing that the one who holds your future also holds you in His loving hands. In the journey of life, one of the most profound questions that echo in the hearts of many is, why am I here? What is my purpose? This is not merely a question of curiosity, but one of deep, existential concern that can define the entire course of a person's life. As Miles Monroe powerfully articulated, the greatest tragedy is not death but life without purpose. It's the haunting realization that one could reach the end of their days and look back with despair, wondering what it all meant. What is more tragic than living a life devoid of direction? A life that never fully grasped the reason for its existence. C.S. Lewis, a man whose works have illuminated the path for countless souls, shared a similar sentiment in his writings. He once said, "If I find in myself desires which nothing in this world can satisfy, the only logical explanation is that I was made for another world." This profound statement hints at a purpose that transcends the material and the temporal. It speaks to a yearning within us all, a yearning that suggests we were made for something greater, something eternal. Have you ever felt that inner tug, that restless longing for more? Perhaps you've pursued success, relationships, or material wealth, yet a void remains, a sense that there is something more you were meant to achieve or experience. Lewis's insight urges us to consider that this feeling is not a mistake but a signpost pointing to our true purpose, a purpose that was intricately woven into the fabric of our being long before we came into existence. Consider the creation narrative in the Bible. Before God spoke the words, "Let there be light," He had a purpose for that light. It wasn't a random act, it was a deliberate and intentional decision. Similarly, before you were born, God had a purpose for you. He didn't create you on a whim or as an afterthought. You were created with a specific purpose in mind, a divine reason for your existence that goes beyond mere survival or daily routines. This concept of purpose is not just an abstract idea, but a foundational truth that underpins our very existence. Everything in creation, from the smallest atom to the grandest galaxy, was created with a purpose. And this includes you. The frustration, the confusion, the moments of doubt, these are all part of the human experience, but they are also invitations to seek out and embrace your true purpose. Lewis challenges us to explore these deep questions. He asks us to reflect on our desires, our dissatisfactions, and our longings as clues to our purpose. Why am I here, he would ask, not as a rhetorical question, but as a starting point for a journey of discovery. What if the very struggles you face are part of the process of uncovering your purpose? What if your greatest pain is meant to guide you toward your greatest calling? Miles Monroe's assertion that everything in life begins and ends with purpose resonates deeply when we realize that our purpose is not self-defined, but divinely ordained. It's a purpose that was thought of by God Himself, one that existed in His mind before we even took our first breath. This understanding brings a profound sense of responsibility and urgency to our lives. It compels us to seek out that purpose with all our hearts, to live intentionally, and to fulfill the reason for which we were created. In light of this, I invite you to ponder: are you living with purpose? Are you seeking to discover the reason for your existence, or are you drifting through life, hoping that it will all make sense one day? C.S. Lewis and Miles Monroe both understood that purpose is not just important, it is essential. It is the very reason for our existence, and the key to living a life that is not only fulfilling but also meaningful in the grand tapestry of God's creation. So, I challenge you to seek out your purpose with passion and determination, knowing that you were created for something far greater than you can imagine. Colossians 1 verse 16 in the Message says this: "Everything got its start in Him and finds its purpose in Him." He didn't create you by accident. You're not some accident that just happened to come along because your mother and father, because two people came together. You are here by divine appointment by God, called on purpose for a purpose. That's what it says. And there's only one you, and God said, "I want you to live in this moment. You are unique, and you have a unique purpose." Before He created you, He had the end game in mind. He gave you a purpose. Your birthday is special because that's the day God said, "You're going to come into this world on purpose for a purpose." Before the foundations of the world, before anything was even uttered into existence, He already knew you and called you by name and knew what your purposes would be. Believe that you have a purpose. Do you realize this is the number one question deep down in all of our hearts? What's my purpose? Does God even have a purpose for me? Please understand, God is a purposeful God. He is not a purposeless God. Everything He created has a purpose. God didn't create anything without a purpose. Ecclesiastes 3 verse 1 says, "To everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven." When you look at everything that God created, you can see God created trees with a purpose, animals with a purpose, people with a purpose. Romans 8 verse 28 says, "And we know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are the called according to His purpose." God has a purpose for your life, and even when things go wrong, He is working everything for our good. Listen to me, the designer had a specific purpose in mind for you when he designed you. People ask this question, why am I here? I really think we have two choices, two worldviews. One is, we either believe that we are God's highest and most complex creation, or we're some random cosmic accident. I like the first one better. It gives me a sense of worth, value, significance, and purpose. Why? Because it's based on the Creator, Almighty God, who not only created me but has a purpose and a plan and a mission for my life and your life. I think the starting point has to be God if He's our Creator. Have you ever wondered why, despite all your efforts, life sometimes feels like a puzzle with missing pieces? You might try to force things into place, only to find that the pieces don't quite fit, leaving you feeling frustrated and lost. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "God cannot give us a happiness and peace apart from Himself because it is not there. There is no such thing. Just as a machine is designed with a specific purpose and each part has its place, so too are we intricately designed by our Creator." But what happens when we stray from the designer's blueprint? We start assembling our lives with tools and instructions that weren't meant for us, trying to build something lasting but ending up with something that doesn't function as it should. What if every moment of frustration, every time something didn't go as planned, was a gentle reminder that you're not following the right instructions? Lewis believed that the problem of reconciling human suffering with the existence of a God who loves is only insoluble so long as we attach a trivial meaning to the word love. What if the frustrations and struggles are not signs of abandonment, but rather an invitation to return to the one who knows you better than you know yourself? When you take matters into your own hands, without consulting the one who designed you, it's like trying to fix a complex machine without the manual. You might get something to work temporarily, but it won't be what it was meant to be. Lewis also reminded us that we are not necessarily doubting that God will do the best for us. We are wondering how painful the best will turn out to be. Perhaps the pain of things not working out as you hoped is part of the process of aligning with God's true purpose for you. If you were to go back to the manufacturer, to the one who created you, wouldn't He know exactly where each bolt and screw should go? Wouldn't He know how to handle you, how to put you together in a way that brings out your full potential? The bolts, screws, and valves of your life are not random. They have a purpose and a place. But only the manufacturer knows where they belong. If you keep trying to fit things together on your own, you might end up with something dysfunctional, something far less than what you were meant to be. Isn't it time to stop struggling with the screwdriver and go back to the one who holds the blueprint of your life? The one who knows where you should be, who you should be with, and what you are capable of handling. Let go of the frustration and the endless attempts to make things work on your own. Return to the manufacturer and let Him guide you to build something functional, something beautiful, something that reflects His perfect design for your life. The reason we go back to God is because He is the master, and He put everything in the box we needed to be successful at what we were created to do. So, I don't have to wish for stuff that He put in your box, because I'm not supposed to be you. I'm supposed to be you. I'm supposed to be me. I don't have to long after things that He has given to you because He gave them to you so you could be who you were supposed to be. He gave me everything in the box I needed to do everything I was created to do. He designed you for the life He wants you to live. And if your life is unbearable, it might be because you're leading someone else's life. If your life is too much, too heavy, too fast, and too painful, maybe you're living somebody else's life because you will find that you are perfectly designed to be you. And when you surrender to Him, He will show you how to best be you. God has a unique purpose for each and every one of us, so don't follow in the footsteps of somebody else's purpose. Let me say it again, don't follow in the footsteps of somebody else's purpose. See, God has gifted you. He's given you talents and abilities that He's given only to you. And when you find out what that gifting is, that will help point you in the direction of your purpose. Say it a different way, in other words, God's not going to call you to something that He hasn't gifted you for. 1 Peter 4 verse 10 says this: God has given each of you a gift from His great variety of spiritual gifts. Use them well to serve one another. You and I have been given God-given gifts, passion, personality, and experiences. And God uses all this to shape your mission in the work He's called you to do. Don't let failure stop you. Don't let your own limitations stop you. Don't let your own background or lack of education or lack of experience stop you. You have to start somewhere. When I think about ministry in general, you have to start somewhere. You start now, wherever you are. You start now in your gift, and that is what opens the door for you. You just begin moving in the direction, one step at a time. The Bible says, "Thy word is a lamp unto my feet, a light to my path," it doesn't say. Thy word is the bright spotlight that I can see way down the road. You just take the next step. Be faithful in what God has called you to do, because you simply step out and begin moving in the gift that God has called you to do. Listen, God has a specific purpose for your life. Find out what your gift is. Be faithful. Don't allow setbacks to thwart you or to hinder you in any way. Just continue walking in the gifting that God has given you, and you will find yourself in the destiny God has for you one day. Very rarely do we wake up one morning and God says, "Here is the end from the beginning. I'm going to unveil the whole thing to you. I'll let you know it all." Normally, He begins to work in our life this way, that you take the first step, and I'll show you what the second one looks like, and then we begin to go that way. So, it's more than just a journey. More than just a discovery, it is a journey of discovery as we walk with the Lord. The moment I begin to take a step, God tells me where the next step should be. He's ordering my steps. In fact, you look at it, and Scripture says, well, you step out in the water. Then it'll part, you take the first step. Peter, if you really want to come to me, then you get out of the boat. You take the first step. And when you take the first step, then I will show you what the next step looks like. If you want to know the will of God for your life, then love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Give everything you have to God, and let Him begin to order your steps as you begin to take them. I found that God is big enough in my life to get me to where He wants me to be.